Welcome. We're reading the entire Bible. Today, Genesis chapter 29 and chapter 30. Let's go. If you're brand new here, how you loving, how you loving? I'm Reverend Valerie Love, and you were on the reading of the entire Bible. We're here every day at 7 a.m. Eastern Time. If you're watching the replay, how you loving? Please tell us where you're located so that when we do our preparation for the book tour for The Real God Is Not in the Bible in 2027, we can see you face to face. Genesis chapter 29. Jacob arrives in Paddan Aram. Then Jacob continued on his journey and came to the land of the eastern peoples. There he saw a well in the open country with 3 flocks of sheep lying near it. The stone over the mouth of the well was large. When all the flocks were gathered there, the shepherds would roll the stone away from the well's mouth and water the sheep. Then they would return the stone to its place over the mouth of the well. Jacob asked the shepherds, "My brothers, where are you from?" "We're from Haran," they replied. He said to them, "Do you know Laban, Nahor's grandson?" "Yes, we know him," they answered. Then Jacob asked, "Is he well?" "Yes, he is," they said, "and here comes his daughter Rachel with the sheep." "Look," he said, "the day is still high. It is not time for the flocks to be gathered. Water the sheep and take them back to pasture." "We can't," they replied, "until all the flocks are gathered and has been rolled away from the mouth of the well. Then we will water the sheep." While he was still talking with them, Rachel came with her father's sheep, for she was a shepherd. When Jacob saw Rachel, daughter of his uncle Laban, and Laban's sheep, he went over and rolled the stone away from the mouth of the well and watered his uncle's sheep. Then Jacob kissed Rachel and began to weep aloud. He had told Rachel that he was a relative of her father and a son of Rebekah. So she ran and told her father. As soon as Laban heard the news about Jacob, his sister's son, he hurried to meet him. He embraced him and kissed him and brought him to his home. And there Jacob told him all these things. Then Laban said to him, "You are my own flesh and blood." Jacob marries Leah and Rachel. After Jacob had stayed with him for, "Just because you are a relative of mine, you work for me for nothing? Tell me what your wages should be." Now Laban had 2 daughters. The name of the older was Leah, and the name of the younger was Rachel. Leah had weak eyes, but Rachel had a lovely figure and was beautiful. Jacob was in love with Rachel and said, "I'll work for you 7 years in return for your younger daughter, Rachel." Laban said, "It's better that I give her to you than to some other man. Stay here with me." So Jacob served 7 years to get Rachel, but they seemed like only a few days to him because of his love for her. Then Jacob said to Laban, "Give me my wife. My time is completed, and I want to make love to her." So Laban brought together all the peoples of the place and gave a feast. But when evening came, he took his daughter Leah and brought her to Jacob. Let me make sure I'm on screen share. And Jacob made love to her. Yes, I'm on screen share. And Laban gave his servant Zilpah to his daughter as her attendant. When morning came, there was Leah. So Jacob said to Laban, What is this you have done to me? I served you for Rachel, didn't I? Why have you deceived me? Laban replied, It's not our custom here to give the younger daughter in marriage before the older one. Finish this daughter's bridal week, then we will give you the younger one also, in return for another 7 years of work. And Jacob did so. He finished the week with Leah, and then Laban gave him his daughter Rachel to be his wife. Laban gave his servant Bilhah to his daughter Rachel as her attendant. Jacob made love to Rachel also, and his love for Rachel was greater than his love for Leah. And he worked for Laban another 7 years. Jacob's children. When the Lord saw that Leah was not loved, he enabled her to conceive, but Rachel remained childless. Leah became pregnant and gave birth to a son. She named him Reuben, for she said, It is because the Lord has seen my misery. Surely my husband will love me now. She conceived again, and when she gave birth to a son, she said, Because the Lord heard that I am not loved, he gave me this one too. So she named him Simeon. Again, she conceived, and when she gave birth to a son, she said, Now at last my husband will become attached to me because I have borne him 3 sons. So he was named Levi. She conceived again, and when she gave birth to a son, she said, This time I will praise the Lord. So she named him Judah. Then she stopped having children. Genesis 29:17 footnote for the word Leah had weak eyes or delicate. Genesis 29:32 for the name Reuben. Reuben sounds like the Hebrew for he has seen my misery. The name means see a son. Footnote for Genesis 29:33, Simeon. Simeon probably means one who hears. Genesis chapter 9, verse 34, footnote, Levi sounds like and may be derived from the Hebrew for attached. Genesis 29:35, footnote, Judah sounds like and may be derived from the Hebrew for praise. Genesis chapter 30. Hold on. We're in the NIV and we need to be in the World English. All good. When Rachel saw that she bore Jacob no children, Rachel envied her sister. She said to Jacob, Give me children, or else I will die. Jacob's anger burned against Rachel. God's place, who has withheld from you the fruit of the womb. She said, Behold, my maid, Bilhah, go into her, that she may bear on my knees, and I also may obtain children by her. She gave him Bilhah, her servant, as wife, and Jacob went into her. Bilhah conceived and bore Jacob a son. Rachel said, God has judged me and has also heard my voice and has given me a son. Therefore she called his name Dan. Bilhah, Rachel's servant, conceived again and bore Jacob a second son. Rachel said, I have wrestled with my sister with mighty wrestlings and have prevailed. She named him Naphtali or Naphtali. When Leah saw that she had finished bearing, she took Zilpah, her servant, and gave her to Jacob as a wife. Zilpah, Leah's servant, bore Jacob a son. Leah said, How fortunate. She named him Gad. Zilpah, Leah's servant, bore Jacob a second son. Leah said, "Happy am I, for the daughters will call me happy." She named him Asher. Reuben went in the days of wheat harvest and found mandrakes in the field and brought them to his mother Leah. Then Rachel said to Leah, "Please, give me some of your son's mandrakes." Leah said to her, "Is it a small matter that you have taken away my husband? Would you take away my son's mandrakes also?" Rachel said, "Therefore, he will lie with you tonight for your son's mandrakes." Jacob came from the field in the evening, and Leah went out to meet him and said, "You must come in to me, for I have surely hired you with my son's mandrakes." He lay with her that night. God listened to Leah, and she conceived and bore Jacob a fifth son. Leah said, "God has given me my hire because I gave my servant to my husband." She named him Issachar. Leah conceived again and bore a sixth son to Jacob. Leah said, "God has endowed me with a good dowry." Born him six sons. She named him Zebulun. Afterwards, she bore a daughter and named her Dinah. God remembered Rachel, and God listened to her and opened her womb. She conceived, bore a son, and said, "God away my reproach." She named him Joseph, saying, "May Yahweh add another son to me." When Rachel had borne Joseph, Jacob said to Laban, "Send me away that I may go to my own place and to my country. Give me my wives and my children for whom I have served you, and let me go, for you know my service with which I have served you." Laban said to him, "If now I have found favor in your eyes, stay here, for I have divined that Yahweh has blessed me for your sake." He said, "Appoint me your wages, and I will give it." Jacob said to him, "You know how I have served you, and how your livestock have fared with me. For it was little which you had before I came, and it has increased to a multitude. Yahweh has blessed you wherever I turned. Now when will I provide for my own house also?" Laban said, "What shall I give you?" Jacob said, "You shall not give me anything. If you will do this thing for me, I will again feed your flock and keep it. I will pass through all your flock today, removing from there every speckled and spotted one, and every black one among the sheep, and the spotted and speckled among the goats. This will be my hire. So my righteousness will answer for me afterward when you come concerning my hire that is before you. Everyone that is not speckled and spotted among the goats and black among the sheep that might be with me will be considered stolen." Laban said, "Behold, let it be according to your word." That day he removed the male that was streaked and spotted, and all the female goats that were speckled and spotted, everyone that had white in it, and all the black ones among the sheep, and gave them into the hand of his sons. He set 3 days' journey between himself and Jacob fed the rest of Laban's flocks. Jacob took to himself rods of fresh poplar, almond, and plane tree, peeled white streaks in them, and made the white appear which was in the rods. He set the rods which he had peeled opposite the flocks in the watering troughs where the flocks came to drink. They conceived when they came to drink. The flocks conceived before the rods, and the flocks produced streaked speckled, and spotted. Jacob separated the lambs and set the faces of the flocks toward the streak and all the black in Laban's flock. He put his own droves apart and didn't put them into Laban's flock. Whenever the stronger of the flock conceived, Jacob laid the rods in front of the eyes of the flock in the watering troughs that they might conceive among the rods. But when the flock were feeble, he didn't put them in. So the feebler were Laban's and the stronger Jacob's. The man increased exceedingly and had large flocks, female servants and male servants, and camels and donkeys. Footnote to Genesis chapter 30, verse 24, for the word Joseph, the name Joseph. Joseph means may he add. And then you have the reading of the Bible. And if you came for the reading of the Bible, there you have it. Now, let's get into this commentary. Can we think this way about the Bible? It's a story. So I'm currently reading, let me pull up the Iliad and the Odyssey next to me. I'm pretty sure I have the Iliad and the Odyssey next to me. Hold on. Yes, here it is. So when you read the Iliad and the Odyssey, this is my Iliad and Odyssey. We had to read this in school, remember? I wasn't paying attention then. Now I am. So I'm reading Homer because there's a lot of Homer in the Bible, yet you may not see, so that we not Old Testament is older than Homer, possibly. Parts of it anyway. At least the stories that they're telling are older than Homer. Now, when you read Homer, you do not think inherently that this one is the bad one and this one is the good one. You read Homer and you make your judgment calls based on reading the book. For instance, let's give another example. When you read Harry Potter, you don't need a church to tell you Harry Potter that Lord Voldemort is the antagonist, that he's the villain. We don't have to have someone tell us that. You read the text, you see that Harry is the protagonist, Lord Voldemort is the antagonist, and the two of them actually are two sides of the same coin, and they're actually related. And you start to understand all the different people in it, like the Weasley family, and you understand Hermione, and you understand all of all of the characters. How do you understand them? You understand them by reading the text. Now, this is where the Bible gets crippled. Before we read the Bible, we were already told who was the villain and who was not. And then, because from a doctrine that they made up, and then they tried to back it up with the Bible. Therefore, when you read the Bible, you are told that these particular people are heroes when they really act like villains. This gives a very skewed idea to people who are trapped in this system of good and evil. Jacob is clearly involved in deceit. Laban is clearly involved in deceit. Both of them are in deceit and manipulation, both of them. Yet church tells you that Laban was the bad guy in the story and Jacob is the good guy in the story. Don't let anyone else tell us who the good guy is or who the villain is, or who the bad woman is, or who the protagonist is of any given story in the Bible. Simply read it as a story and make up your own mind. When I read this story, I haven't found a hero yet. I haven't found a hero yet. I'm just reading about the ordinary shenanigans of ordinary people. This one wants this one wants that. It's a very human story. I also want to call your attention to something. Do you notice that we no longer have in the earlier chapters of the very same version of the Bible? Let's look at it, because at first, let's go on screen share. I want to call attention to God's name, supposedly God's name. Now, God doesn't have a name. Okay, God does not have a name. I want to call attention to something. Do we notice that in the World English Bible, we don't have Yahweh here, we have God. Then if you go back here to chapter 29 in the World English Bible, let's see if they reference God or Yahweh. I think this is when they're talking about wives and children and babies and sheep and goats. Let's look back in chapter 28. Notice that we had prior chapters where everything was Yahweh, 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 Yahweh. Now we have God, God, God. Let's look in the online Hebrew Interlinear Bible, scriptureforall.org. Let me drop this in the chat. Use this. Church lied again. Church lied again. Jacob is not the hero. That's right. Church lied again, girl. They totally did. Here we are at scriptureforall.com, and we want to go to the Hebrew English Interlinear Bible so that we can see the actual word for God that is used in Genesis chapter 29 and chapter 30, because the name keeps changing. All right, let's find it. And Jacob went out to journey and he looked. Let's find a mention of God, or a mention of who they worship, who these people are worshiping. Who are these people worshiping? Let's go find it. They're talking about love. They're talking about, ooh, Rachel's so beautiful. She's super shapely. Oh my goodness, when she runs out, do you notice that she runs out just like Rebecca ran out? Same story. They just changed a couple of the details. It's just same story. The Rebecca story and the Rachel story, same story. She came out to water the sheep. The first one came out to water the camels. The second one came out to water the sheep. Same story. And instantly they knew, oh, that's her. That's the one. Oh, and she's so beautiful. Lord. Interesting. What is the word? Okay, here we have Yahweh, that they are translating as Lord, Lord, Lord. Now let's go to Genesis chapter 30, and let's see what name they are using. It's an interesting exercise to find out what is the name that they are using here to refer to God. This one is Elohim. Do you see that? Do you see that? Now, you might think, well, using different names for God is not really a big deal. It is a big deal. Here, let's see, Elohim. So the Bible scholars said, why is it that in some of these stories we have Elohim, 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 and in other stories we have different references to God in the same text? What's happening here? And this is what the Bible scholars came to as an answer to why it's different. Why do we have two different creation stories, Genesis 1, Genesis 2? Why do we have two different flood narratives? They're different. Read them. In one, it's 40 days and 40 nights. In another, it's 150 days for the flood. In one, two of each animal ark. In the other, he takes seven of each animal into the ark, except those who are unclean. It's two different stories. We read them. It's two different stories. And Bible scholars, and then there's back and forth with the name. What's the name of God? Back and forth, different names for God. And so Bible scholars said, what is happening here? So they came up with the documentary hypothesis. It's a hypothesis that said that these different versions that were put together, they come from different places. There are different tellings of the same story. So let's go to the documentary hypothesis in my book so that it's very clear what this documentary hypothesis is and how Bible scholars do know that hold on, I'm not inside the book yet. Hold on. Let me go inside the book. That the Bible scholars notice the same thing that you and I are noticing, that it changes and that the same story is told different ways, and that there's different names for the God of these stories, and that in some particulars, the story actually contradicts with the other story. What gives? It's not coherent. It's not seamless. It seems to contradict. It tells the same story as we can tell, yet the facts of the two stories are different. What's happening here? So they came up with the documentary hypothesis. And I'll share that with you right now. This is inside the book so that we can understand what is happening in the Bible. Why is the Bible saying conscience? And why is it? This is an excellent one, Dia. That's excellent. You're right that there was even more change with the translation, yet in the originals don't even all say the same thing. So they came up with what is called the documentary hypothesis, and it basically is a theory to explain the variances and differing voices in the Hebrew biblical text. Part of the Bible, think of it this way. If you could read Hebrew, think of it this way. We're going to make a modern day comparison to English. Part of it reads like a rap that Jay-Z wrote. Part of it reads like Shakespeare. And part of it reads like modern English. All three of those are English. Yet if you read a rap modern day, you would know, oh, these are the lyrics to a rap that someone wrote. It might have broken English, it might have things that are together that sound the same. They're not exactly rhymes, they have the same flow to them. You would understand, and this is English. And then that would be very different from Shakespeare. And you read Shakespeare, oh thine, and so in the same, written in the same style as the King James Bible, right? You know, that's English also. And then you read a book about the brain and brain science in modern English, that's English also. So if you looked at those three, you would clearly say, well, these three have different authors. The same person, possibly, right? You would say, well, the same person, this person who wrote a rap song clearly didn't write Shakespeare. And Shakespeare clearly didn't know anything about modern English because Shakespeare didn't live with us now. When he was on the planet, this is how people spoke and wrote English. We speak and write modern English, which is very different. So if we were able to read Hebrew, we would see that there are differing voices in the Hebrew biblical text. But because we cannot read Hebrew, they can whitewash it and give it to us a version that does not exist in the original Hebrew. That's why I like to go back to the original Hebrew and get help with what's called a transliteration. Just tell me word for word what it actually says in original Hebrew, transliterated into English. Give me the pure Hebrew to English here. What does it actually say in Hebrew? And that's where scripture for all comes in. because you can see in some places they have Elohim, but in some places they have Yahweh. What's happening? And these two have two different meanings. Let's go further with the documentary hypothesis. It's a scholarly theory that suggests that the first 5 books of the Bible, Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy, were not written by a single author, which we all know, traditionally believed to be Moses, which we all know, but were instead compiled from multiple sources over centuries. These sources were later edited and woven together into a unified text, likely during the Babylonian exile or Persian period, 6th to 5th centuries BCE. The documentary hypothesis. Let's talk about what are the 4 places. They call them J, E, D, and P. J was one source. This is a hypothesis, this is not proven. This is just something to come up with. How did all these different versions get melded together in one set of books? Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy, also known as the Pentateuch. Pent meaning 5, took meaning books, the 5 books. How did the first 5 books of the Bible come to be a jumble? This is a jumble. And scholars have been talking about this. Why is it a jumble? How did it become a jumble? This is excellent questions. So they came up with that, okay, somehow different sets of people had different versions of the story. And somewhere around the 5th, 6th centuries together, 5th, 6th centuries, they got together and cobbled these stories together into one universe. Deuteronomy, Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy. It wasn't called that. Names came later. It's the fact that they took all these scrolls and they sought to integrate all these people's stories into one text. And what you have is a text that contradicts itself. What you have is a text that says 2 different things, sometimes 3 different things. What you have is a text that in some places reads like Jay-Z's rap song, in some places reads like Shakespeare, and in some places reads like modern English. And when they translate it for us, they smooth it all out and make it just be English or whatever religion or whatever language they are translating it into. So here are the 4 sources that they can recognize in the text. The J source, which is called the Yahweh source. These people are all about Yahweh, 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 Yahweh. So that's why you see some parts of the Bible that are super Yahweh, 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 and you see other parts of the Bible that are not. Like we just saw Elohim. Those other couple of chapters that we were reading, every other word was Yahweh. Now we're reading it, there's no Yahweh, there's only Elohim. What is happening? Did God just flip from one name to another name? Why? It's not seamless. It's not everyone saying the same thing. No, different people are saying different things. We wouldn't know that because they just go through our Bible and they just translate it Lord or God. They just make all of those different things God or Lord. Yet, for the Bibles that are being very true and very scholarly, like they say, the New Revised Standard Version of the Bible is a scholarly work, the NSRV Bible. They say this is a very, very New Revised Standard Version of the Bible. They say this is a very scholarly version of the Bible. So if you want to get a really good version, I'll link it. Let me go to Amazon and get you an Amazon link, because if you use my Amazon link, that would be so wonderful. New Revised, because people always ask me, what's the best Bible, Reverend Val? I don't have an answer to what's the best Bible, because it depends on you and what really speaks to you when you're reading a Bible. What Bible will you actually read and finish for yourself? Some are different. They're all different. But this New Revised Standard Version of the Bible, well, this is a leather one. I'm going to link it below so that we have a good, okay. I'll link it below. I'll link it below. I'll link it on Barnes and Noble in this YouTube video, and I'll also link it in the pinned comment under the video. That's where I put most of the links for each episode. Oops. Okay, reconnect. It is raining this morning, so forgive me. So here's the four. So J, the J source. So when you hear Bible scholars talk about the J source, they are talking about the Yahwehs, people who are all about Yahweh, 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 Yahweh. Now this time, don't pay attention to this time because I'm going to rip the AI for putting this time on here because it's way off. Okay, nobody knew about Yahweh in the 10th century BCE. Don't be ridiculous. And then so I've got to tell you something right now. I argue a fair amount with the AI in my book. I ask you should I'll show you the prompt that I say to AI, then I show you what AI gave me, then I show you why the AI is off, or the AI is religious, or the AI is spouting this mainstream narrative rather than giving facts. And then you see me press the AI again. Okay, AI, I don't want to know the mainstream narrative. We already know religion. I want to know facts. Oh, well, now that you're asking for facts, okay, here are the facts. Like the AI, you got to check the AI. Please don't take AI at its word. You gotta, sometimes you have to pummel AI into submission. The E source is the Elohist source. They use the name Elohim for God, which is what we're seeing in Genesis chapter 29 and Genesis 30. They have a different name for God. Elohim. Elohim can be plural. Elohim also can be singular, depending on the verb usage. And we know that Elohim, many times it's used, it is plural. The D source are the Deuteronomists. The P source is the priestly source or the priests, and they're really they're more like the Levites. They're very, very, very concerned with the rituals, genealogies, laws, the priesthood, all those kinds of things. So they cobbled all these together. It could be more than four. It could be less than four. It could be not it at all. Here are some of the key differences. The priestly, just between the priestly version and the Yahweh's version. The one version uses Elohim as God's name, as we mentioned. The other version uses Yahweh or Yahweh Elohim. The creation style is different. The order of creation is different. In one story, Genesis chapter 1, God makes light, sky, land, plants, animals, then humans. In the Genesis 2 story, God makes man, they don't have nothing to eat, because then plants, animals, and then the woman. Okay? So it's two different stories. We read it, it's two different stories. So that is, and I tell you why the AI is wrong. And then I press it to give me a different answer. And when I press it to give me a different answer, it does. So when you read my book, you will see me arguing with the AI. It's one of my favorite things to do. Like AI, you know that look, AI, you're being religious. I'm not asking you. I have conversations with my AI. My AI has a name. His name is Mercurius. Now, the analogy was perfect with the English language. Yes, thank you so much. Because that helps us understand why the Bible is saying different things. And I'm talking about the only part we're focused on right now is the Hebrew Pentateuch, the first 5 books of the Bible. That is the part of the Bible that we are currently in. So we want to know what the scholars are saying about this part of the Bible, Genesis to Deuteronomy. Now, once we go into, my mother made us memorize the names of the Bible. Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy, Joshua, Judges, Ruth, 1 Samuel, 2 Samuel, 1 Chronicles, 2 Chronicles, 1 Kings, 2 Kings. She made us memorize the names of the Bible because that's a very cultish thing to do in the Jehovah's Witness cult that I grew up into. That's a very cultish thing to do. Make your kids memorize the names of the Bible as if this book came from God and you've got to know it like the back of your hand. It's God's word to you. And I love my mother for doing that in the realm of the ancestors. Thank you, Mom, because there was a greater design to me knowing so much about the Bible and reading the Bible and being in the cult of Jehovah's Witnesses, where it was Bible, 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 yet it was their Bible, not any of the Bibles we're reading. They have their own version of the Bible. It's called the New World Translation of the Holy Scriptures. I'll show it to you one day. I still have a JW Bible. And they made it the Bible now that they use. When you look on jw.org and you see all the governing body talking, it's some gray looking thing. I'm like, what did they do with their Bible? It's just like gray. I'm like, yeah, because y'all are gray, because you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. That's why your book is gray. Anyway, don't get me started on the cult of Jehovah's Witnesses. That's not in this conversation. That will be another conversation. Yes, we must teach AI. And with something as important as the Bible, we cannot simply believe AI because AI said it. So this is not one of my books. I have the AI in my book. And this is what I do because I want to honor you as my reader. Here's what I do in the very beginning of my book. I tell you in the very beginning of the book, the use of AI in this text. Now, I love to write, baby. I'm a writer. I'm a write. I don't need AI to write for me. I love writing. This is not an AI book. It's a book that I wrote using some parts you'll see in this text. Note to indicate where information from artificial intelligence is being shared out of respect for you, my dear reader. I don't rely on AI exclusively. It's not accurate. It's not always accurate. And sometimes it presents nuanced views that require human mind to arrive at critical thinking and analysis. I haven't seen where the AI is nuanced. It doesn't understand all the nuances. Okay. And I tell you, in no instances do I come to conclusions based solely on AI, and never do I abdicate my critical thinking to any outside party. I'm a writer. I love to write. So remember, AI can be biased. It can be non-factual. It can be incomplete. It can be spouting something it found on the internet. Okay? Proceed with caution with AI. So we can't, while I use AI, I don't rely on AI. Very big difference. So if you want to get the book, I love all of you who are right now. Today I have fresh face, no makeup other than little lip gloss and brows. No makeup. I have fresh face today. Fresh face, no makeup. So for any of you who desire to get the book, The Real God is Not in the Bible, I'm so happy to tell you that soon the paperback and hardcover will be coming your way. Oh my goodness. So be notified when the paperback and hardcover come your way. Signed copies, you want to go to Kickstarter because it's going to be released on Kickstarter, not on Amazon. Right now, if you want the ebook, you can go ahead and get the ebook on Amazon. The hardcover and the paperback are coming to Kickstarter. And I love all of you who are making sure that you're connected with the book on Kickstarter, where creators actually get paid. Yay for our hard work. Amazon likes to take a big chunk of our money. So if we can, as artists, so if you love artists and you love people who are doing the good work of bringing good work to you, I do my best to bring you great books. That's what I love. It's my passion. I love writing. I write every day. I do my best to bring you great books. And I love that you all have made this book a bestseller on Amazon, the ebook. It's been on bestseller list after bestseller list after bestseller list. I love that all the members, if you're a member on the Valerie Love channel or Valerie Love YouTube channel or the Christian Witches YouTube channel, you have the ebook as a gift. And it's still growing. So if you bought the ebook on Amazon, or if you own the ebook from my membership here on YouTube, your ebook will be updated, okay, when the final product is done. Because I'm still writing more in it. The more I find out, the more I write. Like, when am I going to stop writing this book? I'm still writing this book. So you would get the completed version. So if you already have the ebook, don't worry, your ebook will be updated as I add to it. Isn't that the beauty of technology? That's why I haven't printed the paperback and the hardcover yet, because I'm still writing. And once it's in print, you can't change your version of it. So I've got to give you the complete full version. This book, I thought it was 474 pages. That's what the cover designer designed for me. Now we actually have to go back and expand the cover design, because this book is probably going to be more like 600 pages. I mean, when you're taking on the Bible, you got to do it right. Let's talk about it. I grew up Southern Baptist and had BTU, Baptist Training Union, where we learned to memorize the books. I loved it. It's what got me interested in studying languages and spiritual practices. I love that. I love that. Okay. We have to memorize the names of the Bible, what groups of people it was written for, and who was the supposed author. Wow, Carla, that is a lot, right? Latter-day Saints. I think these extremist groups, they do give you something to do with your time, because they all said an idle mind is the devil's workshop. So they do give you something to do with your time. And what I love about it is that they gave you things that gave you discipline. They instilled discipline in us. So if you grew up in a high control group like LDS or Jehovah's Witness or one of those, well, one thing, you probably have a lot of discipline in your life, because those groups, oh my goodness, you got to do this and 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 you got to do, oh my goodness. So you probably have a very strong discipline muscle. I want to say something else about Genesis chapter 29 and Genesis 30 in our commentary before we conclude. Do you notice that these women are not able to give birth until they go ask the Elohim if they can give birth? Now, we've thought in the Bible, how is it that so many of these women can't give birth? These are young, beautiful women. How is it that they can't give birth? Just doesn't make much sense. And why is it that the Bible has this recurring theme? This one was barren, and this one was barren, and this one couldn't have a baby. Oh, but then they had to go ask the Lord God, can you give me a baby? And then they get a baby. Is because of the population control. It makes perfect sense in the paradigm of the Anunnaki, because the Anunnaki were practicing birth control, and you probably had to petition them to see if you could have a child. They said it in their text. This perfectly matches the Sumerian text of the Anunnaki, where after the flood, they instituted birth control mechanisms. They introduced infant mortality, infertility to cull the herd so that humanity would not populate out of control on the planet. So you keep hearing these women, these are young, beautiful. Why is it that all these women can't have kids? We've already read about 3 or 4 or 5 women in the first few chapters of the Bible that can't have kids. And they have to go get a kid from the Yahweh figure, from the Elohim. That's because you had to petition your Elohim and see if your Elohim could give you a child, could reverse the infertility. And then somebody like Ninhursag or some kind of fertility specialist would come in, undo whatever the implant was, if it was an implant, or simply give you your fertility meds, and then you would be able to conceive. They had a way of undoing the infertility. So they inflicted the infertility, and then they had a way of undoing the infertility. This makes perfect sense when you read the Bible, considering that these are old Anunnaki stories. It does not make perfect sense when you're reading it and you wonder, why are all these women barren? Why all these women can't have kids? And they all do the same thing. They have to go ask the Elohim if they can have a kid. And then the Elohim gives them a kid. Later on, it was translated, oh, just pray to God and God will give you a kid. Kids don't come from praying to God. Now I know people that say, but Reverend Val, I couldn't get pregnant. I was praying, and I got pregnant. Beautiful. Here's why you got pregnant. You got pregnant for the one reason that people get pregnant. Are you ready for it? I'm about to give you the one reason people get pregnant. Because in the divine design, there was a soul that chose you as a mother, father, And in the divine design, you were going to have that kid, whether you prayed or not, whether you did anything or not, whether you took a fertility pill or not. And you were going to have that kid at the perfect time, at the time that you had it. I had a kid at almost 40. The same year I turned 40, I had a kid. The universe already knew that kid was coming at 40. When I was 20 something, I had no idea how many kids I was going to have. The universe already knew this. This is already a divine design. This is happening larger than some little pills that people are taking. So you don't get a kid because you pray to God and get a kid. If that worked, if children came from prayer, I hate to bust people's bubbles. I really do. I don't want to bust people's bubbles. And if children came from prayer, wouldn't every person who sincerely and honestly prayed to have a child would have a child? Children don't come from prayer. Sometimes it seems like they do, and sometimes it seems like they don't. What? God doesn't like this person, but likes this person? That doesn't make sense, and that doesn't give you a very good sense of who the infinite source is. The infinite source doesn't withhold anything from anyone. The infinite source doesn't withhold children. The infinite source doesn't give children. The infinite source is not sitting in heaven making a parrot with its hands and then making a whale and dropping it into the ocean and then making a baby and dropping it into your womb. That is an infantile understanding of the great infinite source that does not withhold any good thing from you. It says it right in your word. It says right in the Bible, God does not withhold any good thing from you. So why would you think that God will withhold children from you? Doesn't make sense. Doesn't make sense. And then, yes, I was wondering how the servant women were so fertile. You know why? I'll tell you why. This is an excellent question. This is an excellent question. Dia, this is an excellent question, Dia. Like, wait a minute. Bill Ha and Zilpa, they just popping out babies, but this one over here can't get a baby, can't get one baby. Okay. I'll tell you why. They're rehashing the story. It's the same story of Abraham and Sarah. It's the same story as Rebecca and who was Rebecca married to? Jacob. It's the same story again with Leah and no, Leah and Jacob. And then before that, it was Rebecca and Joseph. Who's Rebecca's husband? No, no, no. Isaac. Rebecca and Isaac. Oh my goodness, Jewish people, please don't get mad at me because these are big deal people in the Jewish world, right? And I honor that. I honor all people. Isaac and Rebecca, it's the same story as Jacob and Rachel. Remember? Rebecca comes running out. The servant sees her. That's the one. She's beautiful. Puts on the gold on her. You could tell men wrote this story. They used the same trope 3 times in like 20 chapters. It's the same trope. It's Abraham and Sarah. Sarah can't have a baby. She's so beautiful. Isaac and Rebecca. Rebecca can't have a baby. She's so beautiful. And here we have it again. Jacob and Rachel. She can't have a baby. She's so beautiful. I instantly saw her. She was watering the sheep, and now I married her. Same thing. Do you know that? It's the same thing. So while the Bible writers, we can say that they do have a lot of imagination, there's some parts where they're just rehashing. Can we come up with anything else other than a beautiful woman that you instantly recognize? Sarah, she's beautiful. Rebecca, she's beautiful. Rachel, oh, she's beautiful, lovely figure. They put in lovely figure with Rachel. All these women are so ravishingly beautiful. It's a trope. It's a trope. God, yeah, they just kept repackaging the story. God has nothing to do with this. The infinite source is the infinite, all wise, all knowing, all all-knowing beingness of the entire universe and doesn't get meddled in all these different stories that people are making up. If this was a wait a minute, if this was a modern day epic fantasy writer, wait a minute, if this was a modern day epic fantasy writer, the editors would have edited this story and said, okay, now you keep using the same trope like chapter after chapter. Like every time you introduce a new character, it's the same character. Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, same woman. It's one woman. But they just get a different name because they have to make their origin story. So they're setting up the whole genealogy. This is people, yeah, these are men, clearly. Isn't this clearly men making up? And there's nothing wrong with men writing stories. I love to read stories that men write. But some man wrote this story named Homer. If he was even the one who wrote this, it could have been a bunch of people that wrote this. Just read it for yourself and come to your own conclusions. That's why we're reading it for ourselves and coming to our own conclusions. We don't need church to tell us. Jacob, the thief of he's doing some juju to get more speckled and spotted. You know, he's stealing from the man that gave him both his wives. He's clearly stealing. He's doing juju with this stick in the water. He's doing conception to get more spotted and speckled sheep, goats, more spotted and speckled goats, and more black sheep. Well, you can't do anything to get more black sheep. Just every so often, a black sheep pops out. That's me. That's you. You know, we're the black sheep of the family. We're the weird ones. we're the outliers that were asking. Wait a minute. I have a question about that. Oh my goodness, not you again. You're always the problem. You're always the one asking all the questions. You're the rebel. You're the heretic. Heretic just means one who thinks for themselves. Yeah, I'm thinking. I'm wondering why in one story it says that no, it took 7 of each animal into the ark. In the other story, it says he took 2 of each animal into the ark. Which one is it? Don't question God. Well, God didn't write this book, and y'all need to get your act together. I love you, and I will see you tomorrow. Peace. What fun this book is.